Nikos in London.
Yes, hello guys.
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
I love it. So it's my very first time I'm calling, and although I'm atheist, I think I'm gonna talk. I think that you did a mistake earlier, and I'm gonna have to point it out. I mean, I think it is a mistake. So basically, you said correctly that the very first gospel that we have seems to finish, at least the oldest version seems to finish just before the resurrection. Now, that gospel was written probably around the end of 60s. However, Paul had written 20 years earlier, and he was talking about the resurrection. Although Paul doesn't mention enough details. Actually, Paul is very, very brief. He does mention the resurrection. So it is a possibility that Christians didn't need to mention about it because Paul has written about it.
Well, yeah, you can make that claim, but if you're trying to give a coherent account in a gospel, and you sort of stop before the main event of Christianity, it does raise some questions as far as why would somebody do that, right?
I just explained because it was already mentioned by Paul. So the thing is, there is that's a separate issue. The problem is that it seems like Paul doesn't mention enough.
But wait a minute, Nikos. The books of the Bible all had different authors, and they were assembled together in a coherent whole by committee much later, and so the claim of who knew what is very difficult, especially when you say when we go and look at, we don't even know who really wrote these different gospels. I mean, they're attributed to various people, but we don't know who wrote them. So
no, we know about Paul. For Paul, we're quite sure.
We know about Paul, yes.
But that's the thing. I mean, Paul was the very first. I mean, scientifically speaking, it seems like Paul's writings were the very first ones. And it's quite a question mark, actually, why Paul doesn't seem to mention enough about Jesus. He seems to say very few things. He basically says that...
well, even Paul never had a first-person account of Jesus.
Yes, that's true, but he did mention about the resurrection.
Okay, but it was...
It's factual. He doesn't say many things, but he does say that...
But it wasn't something he witnessed. It was secondhand for him.
Maybe it's a made-up story. I'm not saying that, but he actually wrote about it. So the fact that some people later, after him, don't mention about it, it's not the biggest issue in the sense that they were trying to complete a story that he didn't write. Paul doesn't say enough about Jesus. So my guess, and I could be wrong, of course, is that they try to mention everything else.
I'll agree that that's a plausible explanation for why Mark doesn't expand on that, the original version. But part of my point for bringing it up is that a lot of Christians don't know about this. They don't know about this early ending of that gospel and the questions it brings up, and the fact that the rest of the gospel is an interpolation, right? And so there's I'm hoping to through that story to raise awareness that, hey, this is a bunch of sausage making here, that there's a lot of ugliness under the scenes, and what you are presented as is the Holy Bible, is really the result of a human process of editing and changing and different agendas and these sorts of things, and people need to be aware of that. So that was the main motivation for why I was bringing that up.
I do see that point, but it is possible, and we should leave it open, that maybe, because, at the time they were actually copying the text, and not all texts are the same. So, it's possible that this bit was cut out by mistake, or it was not preserved, because, the oldest Bibles that we have are really, really old. We don't have a Bible, actually. We have fragments. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if we can judge by this. I think there are a lot stronger arguments, and I think we need to put forward things that we're quite sure of. Sure, you can never be sure, but things that we can feel strong about it. And I see your point, but there I'm not sure it's strong enough, and that's why I mention it. I'm really sorry. It's my first time I'm calling. I would love to call and say something.
I get that criticism that I often bring up arguments that are not as strong as they could be. So, okay, thank you.
So
thank you for your feedback.
In the future and say something more interesting about atheism.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
I'm staying out of that because I have skimmed some stuff about how the New Testament was written, but I am by no means an expert on biblical chronology, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we can take some other callers.
We could, but we have Zach calling back thinking that we hung up on him by mistake, and we hung up on him on purpose. So I'm doing it again.
Okay. Poor Zach.